In a recent study by Dr. Adi Sleebush at the Willem Petzer group, it was found that the rising black unemployment rate was directly proportional to the rise in the amount of BEE and employment equity related laws passed by the South African government each year. This means that as the number of race laws targeting white people increases, the black unemployment rate increases proportionally. The ANC keeps telling us that their so-called transformation policies are designed to empower the majority, to lift black South Africans out of poverty and to level the playing field. But here's the truth, the numbers tell a completely different story. Over the past 15 years, the more the government forced through its racial legislation, the more black South Africans lost their jobs, lost their income, and lost their hope for a future. What you're about to see are the hard facts that the ANC doesn't want you to know about because it exposes the fraudulent failure that is black economic empowerment. It was recently reported by the South African Broadcasting Corporation that, according to their latest data, black people in South Africa are the most affected by the country's ongoing unemployment crisis. It highlighted that from 2010 until 2025, black unemployment in this country rose from just under 30% to over 37%, with colored, Indian and white unemployment also rising, but at a much slower rate during the same 15 years. What is interesting, however, is the rise in black unemployment rate in real numbers. In 2010, there were just over 4 million unemployed black people in this country, a figure that has now risen to almost 8 million. At the same time, the number of employed black people in this country rose from just under 16 million to around 21 million today. This means that while the number of unemployed black South Africans doubled over the past 15 years, the number of employed black South Africans only increased by 31% over the same period. All of this during a period in which the government has tightened and increased its BEE laws immensely. The reality of South Africa over the past 15 years has unequivocally shown that the more black economic empowerment laws lead to the greater black unemployment and greater black poverty rates. During roughly the same period, black African household income in South Africa actually decreased from $11,800 to $7,500 in nominal USD terms, a drop of about 36%. Furthermore, even the 14.4% increase in real household income of black South Africans in rand terms is still well below inflation, which has averaged around 5% annually over the same period, making this not an achievement for the ANC like Cyril Ramaphosa claimed. The data unequivocally show black South Africans are getting poorer by the day under ANC government's BEE regime. Back in 2010, the South African project still seemed to be working. The country was euphoric over the Soccer World Cup, we were hosting it, and we were coming off of the back of a decade of fairly solid economic growth. Between 2000 and 2010, unemployment levels in this country remained fairly stable, and we experienced the best economic growth of any period during the ANC's rule. Black economic empowerment, which had first been implemented in 2003, at the time did not yet shape the South African economy in the way that it does today. In fact, following 2010, the ANC government passed several laws significantly expanding its BEE regime, including, among others, the 2013 BEE Amendment Act, the 2023 Preferential Procurement Amendment Bill, and most recently, the Employment Equity Amendment Act, on which the Willem Petzer Group recently reported in this video, which you can view by clicking there. Yet, the raw data show that during this same time, the standard of living for South Africans of all races has drastically declined. This is because instead of allowing the country's private sector to effectuate growth, the government doubled down on racial engineering through its black economic empowerment legislation. The South African government forced companies large and small, into compliance with increasingly suffocating legislation. The 2013 Amendment Act created the BEE Commission, hardened compliance requirements, and introduced harsh penalties for non-compliance. Then came the 2023 Preferential Procurement Amendment Bill, which gave the state even greater power to punish companies that failed to toe the racial line in their supply chain. And most recently, with the 2025 Employment Equity Amendment Act, imposed legally binding racial quotas on any company with more than 50 employees. The results are plain to see. Investors already started fleeing. Skilled professionals, especially highly educated white South Africans, are immigrating in droves. Companies are shrinking or closing rather than face impossible compliance demands. And yes, the very people that BEE was supposedly designed to uplift, black South Africans, are fast sinking deeper into unemployment and poverty. The black middle class that briefly expanded in the 2000s is now shrinking again. Household income for black South Africans has collapsed in dollar terms, and even in rand terms it lags far behind inflation, meaning that ordinary families can buy less food, less electricity, and far fewer luxuries with every passing year. By the way, if you find our work informative, join our WhatsApp group. Follow the steps underneath me right here. This is the great irony of the ANC's so-called empowerment project. The more the state intervenes in the name of empowerment, the poorer, more jobless, and more desperate the vast majority of black South Africans become. Instead of real empowerment through jobs, skills, and growth, South Africans are being handed paper laws, quotas, and slogans, while only a handful of politically connected cadres benefit at everyone else's expenses. Yes, the ANC is directly responsible for taking away employment opportunities from black South Africans and for making them poorer. The more the state intervenes in the name of empowerment, the poorer, more jobless, and more desperate the vast majority of black South Africans become. Because BEE is not about creating new opportunities, it is about redistributing existing ones. It doesn't grow the economic pie, it simply slices it a little bit differently and in the process makes the pie significantly smaller for everyone else to share. Companies that could be expanding and employing thousands more people and raise their salaries are forced to downscale or relocate because compliance with ever stricter racial law is too costly and unworkable for many. Young black graduates who should be entering a thriving job market instead find themselves trapped in endless unemployment lines. And all the while, a tiny black elite closely tied to the ANC gets richer off government tenders, inflated contracts, and fronting scams. So it's not just a matter of correlation, there is real causation. By killing the private sector with their BEE regulations, the ANC is making it impossible for entrepreneurs to grow their businesses and employ more people. So yes, the ANC is directly responsible for taking away employment opportunities from black South Africans and for making them poorer, just like the rest of South Africans. And this exposes the brutal reality. BEE is not black economic empowerment, it is black impoverishment dressed up as liberation. Do you like our content? Consider making this channel stronger. Become a member by following the steps right underneath me. The consequences of this failed empowerment regime are absolutely devastating, and not only for the minorities it targets, but also for the very black population it was supposedly intended to uplift. Economically, South Africa is stuck in permanent stagnation, with fewer investors, fewer businesses, and fewer jobs. The economy cannot grow fast enough to keep up even nearly with the millions of young people entering the workforce every year. Politically, the ANC has trapped itself in a vicious cycle. The more its policies fail, the more it doubles down on racial discriminatory legislation to cover up its failures, alienating investors even further. The result? Millions of young black South Africans, supposedly the intended beneficiaries of black economic empowerment, are left with nothing but anger and hopelessness. Rising unemployment and poverty among the black masses, a shrinking middle class, professionals continuing to immigrate, and ordinary black families being left behind in communities with collapsing infrastructure, collapsing services, skyrocketing food prices, and no foreseeable future. After all, when you make laws preventing the builders from building, everybody suffers from the housing crisis. And while Ramaphosa and the ANC leadership boast about transformation, they are destroying the lives of millions of people. So here's the brutal truth. Every time the ANC passes another race law, black unemployment rises and millions of families are pushed deeper into poverty. And it won't stop here. The new Employment Equity Amendment Act is the sharpest weapon yet recently passed, enforcing racial quotas on every business with more than 50 employees. If you want to see exactly how this law will destroy jobs and collapse our economy, click on the screen now to watch our full breakdown of the Employment Equity Amendment Act. And if you haven't yet, please consider becoming a member of the Willem Petzer group. Your support is what helps this channel grow, reach new heights, and changing the hearts and minds of people. Just follow the steps written down in the video underneath me. Goodbye and God bless.